The power of thinking in decades. Why long-term thinkers build extraordinary wealth. Have you ever noticed that the people who seem to build lasting wealth rarely obsess over what happened in the stock market today? Here's a question worth thinking about. What if the biggest difference between those who become wealthy and those who stay stuck isn't intelligence, luck, or income, but the length of time they think ahead? Stay with me, because by the end of this episode, you may never look at money, investing, or even your own future the same way again. Welcome back. Today we're diving into one of the most underrated ideas in the psychology of investing, thinking in decades. Most people think about Friday. Some think about next month. A few plan for next year. But the people who quietly build extraordinary wealth often make decisions based on where they'll be 10, 20, or even 30 years from now. Our brains aren't naturally wired for this. Behavioral finance tells us we're drawn to immediate rewards. We celebrate quick wins and panic over short-term losses. That's why daily market headlines feel so important, even though they often have little impact on long-term investors. The market can be noisy today and thriving years later. If you judge your investments by the day, you'll ride an emotional roller coaster. If you judge them by the decade, you'll often see a very different story. Think about planting a mango tree. You don't dig it up every week to check if it's growing. You water it, protect it, and give it time. Investing works much the same way. Compound growth needs patience. It doesn't announce itself with fireworks. It works quietly until one day the results seem almost unbelievable. Warren Buffett once remarked that the stock market transfers money from the impatient to the patient. That's not just an investing lesson. It's a lesson about human psychology. Markets reward discipline far more often than prediction. Trying to perfectly time every rise and fall usually leads to stress, while consistently investing over many years allows compounding to do the heavy lifting. But this idea goes beyond money. Skills compound, relationships compound, good habits compound. Reading a few pages every day may seem insignificant this week, but over a decade, it can transform how you think. Exercising regularly won't change your body overnight, but 10 years of consistency can redefine your health. The same principle applies to your finances. Small, repeated actions become extraordinary outcomes when given enough time. Imagine two friends. Both start with the same salary. One chases every hot investment, checks market prices every hour, and changes strategies whenever fear or excitement takes over. The other invests consistently, ignores most of the noise, keeps learning, and stays focused on a 20-year plan. In the first few years, they may look similar, but as time passes, the gap becomes dramatic. Not because one was smarter, but because one gave compounding the time it needed. Here's something most people overlook. Every impulsive financial decision has an opportunity cost. Selling too early, delaying an investment, or constantly switching strategies doesn't just cost money today. It can cost years of future growth. That's why successful investors often ask a simple question before acting. Will this decision still make sense 10 years from now? It's a powerful filter that removes emotion and brings clarity. So how can you start thinking in decades? First, stop measuring your financial progress every day. Check your direction more than your speed. Second, build systems instead of relying on motivation. Automate your investments if you can. Consistency beats intensity. Third, spend less time reacting to headlines and more time understanding businesses, markets, and your own behavior. Knowledge compounds just like money. And finally, remember that your greatest investment may not be the next stock you buy, but the mindset you develop. When you extend your time horizon, fear loses much of its power, patience becomes your competitive advantage, and market timing is less about predicting tomorrow and more about preparing for the next decade. So let me leave you with this thought. The future isn't built by people who make perfect decisions. It's built by people who make good decisions and give them enough time to work. If this episode challenged the way you think, let me know in the comments. What's one decision you're going to start making with a 10-year mindset instead of a 10-day mindset? If you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who's ready to stop chasing quick wins and start building lasting wealth. Until next time, keep investing. Not just your money, but your patience, your knowledge, and your future.